Picture this. It's midnight. A man who spent his entire career being good with money, never carried debt, always saved, always spent less than he made, is sitting at his kitchen table, going through his bank statements and his credit card statements, and he is floored. He's angry. He's embarrassed. He cannot believe what he is seeing. He picks up the phone and he leaves me an aggressive voicemail. And I want you to hear what he said, because the moment he realized what was actually happening with his money changed everything for him. And honestly, I think a lot of people listening have had a version of this same moment themselves. He said, "Tammy, I cannot believe what I discovered. I don't know how I got here, and I am honestly shocked." He was up most of that night, and what he found really opened his eyes. I'm gonna tell you the whole story in a minute, because the lesson inside the story is exactly why we are here today. I'm Tammy Kayata, certified financial planner professional, and your new favorite truth teller. I spent 15 years helping over 6,000 people transform their financial lives at a Fortune 100 financial services company as a financial consultant. I know exactly what works. I know what the industry will not tell you, and now I'm finally free to say all of it. No fluff, no jargon, no watered down advice, just real, unfiltered strategies for building genuine wealth and living life completely on your own terms. Welcome to Off the Record, where ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. Let's get into it. Okay, let's just get it over with. All together now, say it with me. We hate budgeting. I know. I have heard this from literally thousands of people throughout my career, including lots of other financial advisors. But budgeting, it has one of the worst reputations out there. Honestly, I get it, because the way most people have been taught to budget is frankly terrible. But here's what I also know. Done right, budgeting is one of the most powerful things you will ever do for your financial life. I've seen it save marriages. I've seen it make early retirement possible for people who thought they had no shot of it. I've seen it take someone from drowning in debt to completely debt-free in a timeline they never thought was realistic. So today we are going to bust the old tired myths about budgeting, and I'm going to show you what real budgeting actually looks like today. Budgeting that actually leads to real lasting change in your life, that actually works with your brain instead of against it. Budgeting that fits your life. And I promise you this, budgeting that does not require giving up everything that makes life worth living. Okay, back to that voicemail. So this gentleman came into my office approaching retirement. Very successful career, great income, did a solid job saving, never really carried debt. He was the kind of guy who'd spend his whole life being responsible with money. And he was proud of that, and rightfully so. But he had never worked with a budget, ever. Because in his mind, he didn't need one. He'd always spent less than he made, so what was the point? Here's the thing though. When you sit across from a financial advisor and ask that big question, can I afford to retire? The answer always comes down to three things. One, how much money will you be bringing in after you retire? From Social Security, pensions if you're lucky enough to have one, retirement accounts, investment accounts, things like that. Two, how long do you need that money to last? And three, how much do you actually need or want per month in retirement? And you cannot answer number three without a budget. So I started asking him some questions to put together a budget on the spot. We went through his mortgage, his car payment, his utilities, all the basics, and he rattled off the numbers pretty confidently. We jotted everything down as he talked, and when he was done, it was sitting around $4,000 a month. Looked at his pay stub, however, and his take-home pay was $7,000 a month. So I asked him the next natural question. So, you're saving about $3,000 a month, right? He stopped, looked at me, just shook his head no. So we went back through everything. He thought a little bit harder. He bumped up some of the estimates, especially the fun categories like dining out and travel. But even with those adjustments, he was still $2,000 a month short of what he actually knew was leaving his bank account. He left that appointment on a mission. That night, he went home. He went through every single statement he could find for years. That's the night that he called me, and he left that, let's say, aggressive voicemail. Up until midnight, going through months of transactions, probably thousands of transactions, and absolutely stunned by what he found. Subscriptions he had forgotten he'd even signed up for. Hadn't opened the app in years, but he was still paying it for every single month. Groceries, dining out, household shopping. He was way off on all of his estimates. And the more he looked, the more frustrated that he got. Not with me or with the process, but with himself for letting his money slip away without ever really noticing. Now, I want to pause on that moment because that feeling that he was experiencing at midnight, that frustration, that embarrassment, that physical tightness in his chest while he was going through all those statements, that is your nervous system in a stress response. And I bring this up because this is one of the most important yet least talked about parts of our relationship with money. When we feel financial stress, whether it's seeing a number that scares us, getting a bill we weren't expecting, or maybe realizing that our spending is out of control, our brain activates the amygdala. That's the part of our brain that's responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze response. And here's the problem. When that part of your brain is running the show, the prefrontal cortex, or the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making, for planning, and for impulse control, gets dialed way down and sometimes completely turned off. In plain English, financial stress literally makes it harder to think clearly about money. This is why so many people avoid looking at their finances altogether. Now, going back to this gentleman, initially, you might not have thought that he was avoiding his financial situation. After all, he was sitting there with me, and he wasn't exhibiting any stress responses physically. He was just very confident that he knew where his money was going. He was dismissive of any suggestion that he might look deeper into his situation. And when questioned, that was his automatic response, just to brush me off. But let's dissect that response for a minute, because when we did dig deeper into the real numbers, it wasn't at all what he thought. This is a very intelligent, successful, capable adult. He wasn't in denial. It didn't take much probing, though, to poke holes in his confident belief. In actuality, his false confidence was an avoidance technique to protect him from facing the facts of the situation, which brought out that stress response when he actually did confront it that night. Hence the angry voicemail that he left me. Avoidance is incredibly common, but it doesn't usually look like people saying, "I'm not going to look at that." It's making up excuses, justifying your beliefs with no basis in fact, or refusing to consider that an alternative option might be better for you. Sometimes this shows up when people say, "I don't want to talk about my investments because I'm very happy with my gold or my silver or my crypto or my small cap stock strategy, whatever it is that's been working really well for me." Or, "My finances are great. I've got no debt. There's no reason to look into this." If you see or hear yourself acting or saying things like that, then you may be deep in an avoidance response. It's a completely normal, hardwired biological response to a perceived threat. Your brain is trying to protect you. The problem is avoidance usually makes everything worse. And this is exactly why the way that we approach budgeting matters so much. We have to work with our nervous system, not against it. I'll come back to that. But first, let me finish that story. All right, so we sat back down. We walked through a real budget together, using the strategy that I'm about to teach you today. And he got into it, like genuinely into it. Within a few months, he had made some real changes and was saving an extra $1,000 a month. Here's the part, though, that I really want you to hear. He barely noticed a difference in his lifestyle. He was still doing the things that mattered to him. He just stopped hemorrhaging money on things that didn't. And after about a year of this, he looked at me and he said, "I cannot believe how long I just let all of this money disappear. If I had done this a decade ago, I would have had so much more saved for retirement." In real dollars and cents, he probably let over $200,000 disappear because of his avoidance. Now that has stuck with me because he's not alone. He's not even close to alone. I have hundreds of stories just like his. Here's what I need you to take away from this. Budgeting works. It's not as hard as you think, and there is a method that will work for your life. It does not mean giving up everything that you love. In fact, and this is the part that surprises people every single time, when you are budgeting the right way and you pair it with the right mindset work, your brain actually starts to reward you for it. It releases a pleasure hormone when you make choices that align with what you truly value. You start to actually enjoy saying no to the stuff that doesn't matter to you because it means you can say yes to the stuff that does. All right, let's talk budgeting. Let me ask you something. If I said the word budgeting to most people on the street, what do you think they'd say that it means? Tracking what comes in and what goes out, right? Honestly, that's where most budgeting tools stop. You spend hours setting up connections between your bank accounts and some app or website that you've paid for, or downloading transactions and categorizing everything. And at the end of the day, you get a bunch of pretty charts and pie graphs showing you exactly how much you already spent and where. But then, nothing changes. After a couple of months, most people get frustrated putting all this time and effort into it and getting nothing out of it, and they quit. And then they either write off budgeting as useless, or worse, they turn it on themselves and think, I'm just bad with money. I'm not smart enough for this. But here's the truth. Those tools are missing the entire point. Budgeting is not about what you spent your money on. Budgeting is about what you should spend your money on. Budgeting looks forward. We learn from the past, but we focus on the future. Budgeting is the tool that takes your financial goals and turns them from wishes into a real, actionable plan. And when it's done right, it leads to lasting, meaningful change. If it's not doing that for you, you're either not doing it right or you're using the wrong method or tool. Before I walk you through the framework, I need to talk about something that most financial advisors completely skip over. And it is the reason why so many people know what to do with their money, but still can't seem to actually do it. Your brain. Specifically, the way your nervous system is wired and how that wiring either works for your financial success or completely against it. Because here's the truth. You can have the best budget in the world and still self-sabotage if you don't understand what is happening upstairs. Let's start with stress. We already talked about what happens when financial stress triggers your amygdala. Your brain goes into survival mode, your rational thinking brain shuts down, and suddenly making good decisions is almost impossible. But there's more to it than that. When your nervous system is chronically activated, meaning that you're carrying ongoing financial anxiety, not just a one-time moment of stress, your body is literally flooded with cortisol. That's your primary stress hormone, and chronically elevated cortisol does something really sneaky when it comes to money. It makes you crave immediate reward. Your brain under stress is looking for fast relief, and spending, especially impulsive spending, delivers that relief almost instantly. That hit of dopamine you get when you buy something feels good. It feels like a solution, even when it's making the problem worse. This is also the reason we eat a lot of junk food when we're stressed out. This is biochemistry. And this is why the old school budgeting approach of just say no to everything is such a setup for failure. You're asking someone whose nervous system is already dysregulated and craving dopamine hits to just white knuckle their way through. That works for a couple of weeks, but then your brain wins every time. So what do we do instead? Two things. Regulate first, then budget. When you sit down to work on your budget, especially in the beginning, your nervous system needs to feel safe before your prefrontal cortex can do its job. This doesn't have to be complicated. Before you open a single statement online, try this. Take 5 slow, deep breaths, and I mean slow. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. That extended exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest state. It literally signals to your brain, you are not in danger, you are safe. And from that place, clear thinking becomes possible again. Some people find it helpful to do a quick body scan too, just noticing where you're holding tension and consciously releasing it before you start. Your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. You'd be amazed how much physical tension people carry when they sit down to deal with their finances. Remember, this is not woo-woo stuff. This is neuroscience, and it makes a real measurable difference in the quality of the decisions that you make. Now, the other piece of this is dopamine. This is where I think it gets really interesting, because once you understand how your brain's reward system works, you can actually use it to make budgeting feel good. Here's how dopamine works. Your brain releases it not just when you get a reward, but in anticipation of a reward. This is why scrolling on your phone feels so addictive. Your brain keeps expecting something exciting and awesome and great just around the next scroll. It's a dopamine loop. But here's the beautiful thing. You can create the exact same loop around your financial goals. When you set a specific, meaningful savings goal, not generic, I want to save more, but I am saving $400 a month towards a vacation to Italy in 18 months. Your brain starts to treat that goal the same way it treats any other anticipated reward. Every time you make a spending choice that aligns with that goal, you get a small dopamine hit. Every time you check your progress and see that number in the bank account growing, you get another one. Over time, your brain stops associating saying no to spending that doesn't align with your goals with deprivation and starts associating it with reward. So when you say no to dining out with dinner with friends, or you don't press that buy now button on Amazon, your brain will actually release a pleasure chemical to reward you for saying no. That is a complete rewire of your relationship with money. And this is how we budget to say yes to the things we want, but still get to feel good when we say no to. And it is 100% available to every single person listening to this right now. This is also exactly why the goal setting piece that I'm going to cover in my next episode is not optional. It's not just nice to have. It's the neurological engine that makes all of this sustainable. But wait, we've got one more piece of the brain puzzle to cover before we get into the budgeting framework, and that's neural pathways. Think of your brain like a field of tall grass. Every thought pattern, every habit, every automatic behavior, it's like a path through that field. The paths that you've walked 1,000 times are wide, clear, and easy to follow. Your brain defaults to those paths automatically without effort. Your current money habits, the way you spend, the way you avoid, the patterns you fall into, those are well-worn paths. They feel normal. They feel like you, even if they're hurting you. Building new financial habits means forging new paths through that field. And here's the thing about that. It's hard at first. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. And that's completely normal. That new path requires conscious effort. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Your brain actively resists it because unfamiliar feels like unsafe to a nervous system that is wired for efficiency and survival. This is why small, consistent changes are not just a nice idea, they are neurologically necessary. Every time you make a small choice that aligns with your new budget, you take one more step down that path. You make it a little more worn, a little bit easier to find next time. And over time, we're talking weeks to months, depending on the habit, that new path becomes the default. The healthy financial choice stops feeling hard and starts feeling automatic. That's the science behind why this framework works, not just the math of it, the biology of it. All right, now let's get into it. In my financial learning community, Finlightenment Financial Learning Group, I teach clients a budgeting process that actually works, and I've built it around a phrase that sums up the whole approach. Take control today, tomorrow reap the rewards. The first letter of each of those words maps to a step in the process. Let's walk through it. The first T is track your income and spending. This is the same first step that all those other budgeting tools get right. And frankly, it is important. You genuinely cannot make smart decisions about your money until you understand where it's actually going. Pull your statements up, go through all your transactions, and get an honest picture of your reality. Now, a word about this step and your nervous system. For a lot of people, this is the hardest step. Not because it's complicated, but because looking at the reality of your spending can feel threatening. Remember what we talked about earlier. When your brain perceives a threat, it wants to shut down or run. So if you sit down to track your spending and you feel that wave of dread or resistance, or you find a million reasons or a million other things you could do and do them instead, that's your amygdala talking. Do your breathing first, seriously, and remind yourself this information cannot hurt you. Avoiding it can. Awareness is always the first step towards power. This step alone can be kind of a wake-up call, like our midnight voicemail guy. Now, the C is for categorize your spending. Once you know where your money is going, you organize it. And there are two really big buckets that we want to start with. Number one, necessary expenses. These are the bills that you'd still have to pay if you lost your job tomorrow. Think of this as your survival budget. It's not a fun life, but it is a life. These are the expenses you'd keep even in a real financial emergency. Number two, discretionary expenses. This is everything that makes your life worth living. Dining out, hobbies, travel, holiday shopping, all the extras. Now, the more subcategories you can break your two big broad categories into, the better. When you can see exactly where the money is going within each bucket, you start to make smarter decisions about whether that's truly where you want to be spending. And let me just climb on my soapbox for a moment here because this really matters and it drives me crazy. Please stop using fixed expenses as a budget category. I beg of you. It is meaningless and a confusing term. Fixed just means the amount is the same every month. It says nothing about whether that expense is necessary or not. Your mortgage is a fixed expense, but guess what? Your Panera Bread sip club is also a fixed expense. One of those is keeping a roof over your head, and the other one is iced coffee. So for budgeting purposes, fixed expenses tells you nothing. Let it go. We just want necessary versus discretionary. That is where the real insight is. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. Back to it. The next T is time to create your target budgets. This is the step that almost every budgeting tool gets completely wrong. And unfortunately, it is the most important one. Now notice I said budgets, plural. You actually want to. Target budget number 1, your annualized budget. Sit down and go through every spending category you can think of. Use your past spending as a reference point, but estimate what you think you will spend in each category for the entire year. Then divide that number by 12. This one exercise is eye-opening for most people because here's what happens when you skip it. You sit down to budget and you're mentally locked into this month, what you're facing right now. You completely forget the stuff that only comes up a few times a year later on. Higher heating bills in January, summertime, travel, holiday gifts, back to school shopping. If your kids are in sports, dance, cheer, music, drama, any of those things, the seasonal fees can be huge. And if you're not planning for them, they wreck you every time they show up. The annualized budget forces you to think about your whole life in one whole year. And a well-built budget will take those irregular expenses and divide them by 12 so that you're setting aside a little each month and the money is actually there when the bill arrives. No more financial gut punches in December. Target budget number 2, your short-term tactical budget. This one is completely different. But this is where the actual change happens. Here's where I want to bring the brain back in for a second because it is important. The fastest way to torpedo your budgeting habit is to look at everything and declare total war. No dining out, no subscriptions, no fun, cut everything out. Sounds great on paper, yeah, you're gonna save a lot of money. But remember what we talked about. Your brain is wired to resist abrupt, dramatic change. When you strip away all the things that have been giving your brain its regular dopamine hits, you are going to create a neurological revolt. Your willpower will get exhausted, your nervous system will scream for relief, and eventually, usually just a couple weeks, the old habits come flooding back harder than before. This is not weakness. This is how your brain works. So instead of overhauling everything at once, your short-term tactical budget focuses on just 2 to 3 categories at a time. Each month, you look at your actual spending from the previous month and compare it to your annualized target. Then you pick one necessary expense category to work on. Things like your cell phone plan, your insurance policies, your utility usage, or maybe even your living situation. These items take longer to change, but they can have enormous long-term impact. You might work on one of these for several months at a time. You also choose 1 to 2 discretionary categories: dining out, travel, gifts, shopping, whatever. These are generally easier to shift and often where there's the most room to move. That's it. You're not overhauling your life. You're making small, focused adjustments month after month that build real momentum over time. And here's the beautiful neurological side effect of doing it this way. Every small win releases a hit of dopamine. And every time you come in under budget in one of your categories, your brain registers a reward. Over time, your brain starts to genuinely enjoy the budgeting process. Saying no to the things that don't matter stops feeling bad because your brain is getting its reward just from the progress itself. That is the rewire happening in real time. And it's okay if you don't hit the goal perfectly every single month. The goal is not perfection, it's progress. What the second budget does is keeps you accountable and keep you actually moving forward. Okay, R for revise. Your budget needs to grow and change with your life. And this is where I want to talk about something that quietly destroys more wealth than almost anything else: lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is the slow, silent expansion of your spending in ways that don't add meaningful value to your life. And it's sneaky because it doesn't feel like a bad decision in the moment. Each individual choice seems totally reasonable. Here's a classic example. you get a 3% raise. And suddenly, without even thinking about it, you're stopping at Starbucks a few more times a week. You finally buy those shoes that you've been eyeing but you've been saying no to. You sign the kids up for one more activity or an extra training session. And just like that, the raise is gone. Your life has not meaningfully improved. Your financial goals are still exactly where they were. Here's why this happens from a brain perspective. Your nervous system has a baseline, a set point for what feels normal. When your income goes up, that set point recalibrates upward almost immediately. Suddenly, the life you were perfectly happy living before the raise came starts to feel like not enough. Your brain starts seeking a new normal that matches this new income. This process is called hedonic adaptation, quickly adapting to a new normal without any substantial increase in happiness. And it is one of the most powerful forces working against building wealth. Understanding that this is happening in your brain, that it is automatic and universal, not a personal failure, is the first step to not letting it run your financial life unchecked. Revising your budget every time your income or your life circumstances change is how you stay ahead of it. And the final R is revisit. When you revisit, it means regularly, on a monthly basis. Your budget is not a one-time document. It's a living tool. Life changes, income changes, goals change. Your budget has to keep up. Think of this as your regular nervous system check-in too. How are you feeling about your finances right now? Are you coming at your budget from a place of scarcity and fear, or from a place of intention and possibility? That emotional baseline matters. It shapes every decision that you make. If you're sitting down to revisit your budget and you're in full stress response mode, your cortisol is pumping, your brain is in survival mode, then you need to do your breathing first. Get regulated, then look at your numbers. You'll make better decisions every single time. So that's the whole framework. Track, categorize, 2 target budgets, tighten your belt with small, consistent changes, revise for lifestyle creep, and revisit both the numbers and your own nervous system state. And underneath all of it, running the whole thing, is your brain, your dopamine system, your stress response, your neural pathways. This is not just a math problem, it's a biology problem too. And once you start working with your biology instead of trying to force your way through it, everything changes a lot easier. Master this process, and I guarantee that you will see lasting, meaningful change in your life, not just in your bank account, but in how you feel about money. Because for most people, that shift from money being a source of anxiety to money being a source of empowerment is even more life-changing than the dollars themselves. But we're not done, not even close. The next episode is all about integrating your actual goals into this process. And I'm going to show you exactly how goal setting rewires your brain's reward system to make all of this not just sustainable, but something you genuinely look forward to. After that, we're going to keep going. We're going to build your cash management system. We're going to talk about protecting yourself while building wealth at the same time. And I will walk you through a simple strategy to budget your way completely out of debt. So make sure that you are subscribed to this channel because this is all coming and it is good. I'll see you next time.